The ship door opened with a loud hiss. One by one, the students stepped out, their boots touching real dirt for the first time. They looked around tall trees, thick bushes, no buildings, no machines, only wind, birds, and the sound of something. Crawling far away, this was not a classroom. This was the survival forest. 20 alien students stood close together, shivering, each from a different planet. With different skin, eyes, and voices. Some had scales, others had feathers or glowing spots on their arms. They all wore the same black training suit with a green badge that said, Galactic Academy Level 3 Survival Test. A metal voice spoke from a drone above. Welcome to your final test, students. You will spend 3 days in this forest, with no tools, no food, and no help. Use your training, work together, and survive. Tracking will begin now. The drone flew away fast, disappearing behind the trees. A deep silence followed. Then panic began. One student screamed, I can't do this. We weren't told it would be this wild. Another covered their head, shaking. Where are the walls? Where are the bots? A girl with green eyes tried to activate her bracelet, but nothing worked. The signal was blocked. No tech, no help, just nature. Then came the sound of something. Moving in the bushes, it was big, fast, and too close. All the students jumped. Some ran in circles. Some cried. Some tried to hide behind trees, but one didn't move. A human boy named Ryan stood still. He was calm, quiet, and watched the chaos. Without saying a word. He had brown hair, dark eyes, and a small backpack on his shoulder. He looked up at the trees like he was thinking about something old. Then, without speaking, he walked to a tall tree with wide branches. He dropped his bag, pulled out a small metal knife, and started cutting vines. The other students stared at him, confused. What is he doing? One whispered, He's going to climb. Another asked, No, said the green-eyed girl. He's building something. Ryan didn't answer. He cut the vines into long strips and started collecting thick sticks. He stacked them by size, tied them together tightly, and began digging small holes at the base of the tree. His hands moved fast, but steady. He didn't panic, didn't shout, didn't even look tired. The sun began to go down. The air grew colder. And the alien students were still without shelter. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to dig a hole. Some wanted to sleep in the open. Others just sat and cried. But Ryan kept building. By evening, he had tied 2 thick branches between 2 trees. About 4 feet off the ground, he used vines to tighten the ends, then laid flat sticks across them like a floor. It wasn't big, but it looked safe, and it was off the ground away from bugs and creatures. He was building a treehouse from nothing. A few students walked closer. Carefully, one asked, Why are you doing this? Ryan paused for a moment, then said softly, Because night is coming. That was all he said. Then he went back to work. The students looked around again. Darkness was falling fast. The forest was full of strange sound screeches, howls, rustling leaves. Suddenly, the idea of a treehouse didn't seem so silly anymore. It seemed smart, safe, even. Human, the green-eyed girl stepped forward. Can we help? She asked. Ryan looked up, nodded once, and handed her a vine rope. Hold this, he said. Soon. Others joined slowly at first. Then, faster, they brought sticks, held frames, tied knots, followed Ryan's clear. Simple directions, he didn't yell, didn't show off. He just worked hand. They followed. For the first time since landing, the students weren't afraid. They had something to do. They had someone to guide them, not with power, but with calm and skill. By the time the stars appeared in the sky, the treehouse had a floor. 4 sides made of bent branches and a roof frame. It wasn't finished, but it was strong enough to keep the cold wind away. Ryan sat by the tree base and sharpened more sticks with his knife. The others sat close, not speaking much. but no longer panicking. The first night in the wild had begun, but the forest didn't feel as scary now. Not because the danger was gone, but because a human was building hope with his hands. And everyone saw it. Asterisk, the cold night fell fast. The wind howled through the forest like a warning. Thin alien bodies shook in the dark, their eyes wide with fear. Some sat under trees, hugging their knees. Others stood still, afraid to move. Leaves rustled, branches creaked. Something in the distance growled low. The night was not quiet, was alive. And it was watching. No one had real shelter. No one except Ryan. The treehouse he started earlier wasn't complete, but the floor was solid and raised off the ground. The frame was strong enough to block some wind. He sat in the center, tying vines tighter while others trembled in the dark below. His hands were steady, his face calm, his eyes focused on the next step, a girl with purple skin and silver eyes. Tried to copy him on her own. She tied 3 sticks together, but they fell apart in seconds. She cursed in her native tongue and kicked the ground. "I don't know how to survive like this." She cried, "I'm a pilot, not a wild beast." Another student, tall one with insect wings, was crying softly under a tree. "I saw something." "Move. I swear I saw something in the shadows," he whispered. "No lights, no doors, no alarms. How do we stay safe?" No one had answers, only questions, fear, and shivers. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed snap. Everyone jumped. A thick branch had fallen somewhere nearby. A deep growl followed, then silence. The students backed closer together, whispering in fear. "Are there predators here? Is this forest even safe?" One girl looked up toward the treehouse. Ryan was still working and bothered by the sounds. He now had one full side of the wall covered in bark and leaves. She whispered, "Why is he not afraid?" No one answered, but they all kept staring at him. Minutes passed, then an hour. The cold got worse. Their suits offered little protection. Alien tech was meant for labs and ships, not forests. Finally, one brave student stepped forward. It was the same green-eyed girl from earlier. She spoke loud enough for Ryan to hear. "Can we stay near your treehouse?" Ryan looked down at her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. "Stay close," he said, "but help, if you can." That was enough. She climbed up first. Sitting on the edge of the wooden platform, 2 more followed, then 3, then 5. By midnight, half the class was gathered near the base of the treehouse. They sat together, back to back, trying to stay warm. Some were too proud to ask. So they stayed further away, still shaking. Ryan didn't stop working. He used broken bark to make wind blockers. He bent young branches to add support. He tore his own outer shirt to tie a few poles tighter, and all the while, he watched the dark knot in fear. But in silence, he listened to the noises, counted the patterns. He was thinking, planning, surviving. Why? Does he know how to do all this? Someone whispered. Didn't he grow up on a ship like us? The green-eyed girl replied softly, No, he's from Earth. His people lived in forests before space travel. His ancestors hunted animals, built homes from wood, made fire with stones. The others looked up again. This time not just in curiosity, but with growing respect. Then came the second snap, this one closer. A pair of red eyes flashed between the trees. Something was watching them. Ryan stood up, grabbed the longest stick he had sharpened earlier. He held it like a spear, not moving. The eyes disappeared again. No attack, just a warning. But now, everyone felt the real danger. A student with golden skin and blue hair whispered, If we sleep out here, something will get us. Ryan didn't turn around. He simply said, We finished the treehouse. A pause. Then another voice said, But we don't know how. Ryan turned and handed the stick to the green-eyed girl. You do, he said. Teach them what I taught you. And so she did, with Ryan giving quiet directions and her showing the others. They started helping, fast, clumsy, but willing. Some carried sticks, some tied knots, others shaped leaves into soft walls. Their fingers hurt, their backs ached, but they kept going, not because they loved it, but because they didn't want to be alone in the dark anymore. By early morning, the treehouse had sides, a roof, and enough space for at least 10 to sit inside. The rest sat near it, under its cover, sharing body heat. No one cried anymore. No one complained. They were too tired, but strangely, they also felt proud. They hadn't just survived the night, they had built something together. Under the guidance of the only human among them, Ryan looked at the group, most of them now asleep or resting. Then he leaned back against the tree trunk, his eyes slowly closing. The forest was still wild, still dangerous. But now, it wasn't. Full of fear, was full of learning, and Ryan had planted the first seed of trust. Morning light crept through the trees. Golden rays touched the forest floor, slowly waking up the alien students. Their faces looked tired, their bodies sore. But their eyes, something had changed in them. They no longer looked helpless. They looked curious. The treehouse stood like a quiet hero behind them, half-built, still rough, but strong and solid. It had become more than just a shelter. It was a symbol of survival, of teamwork, of something human. Ryan was already awake. He had never fully slept, just rested with one eye open. Now, he walked around the structure, testing the vines, pulling on corners, checking for weak spots. He didn't say much, just nodded to himself, then got back to work. The others began to rise, one by one. The green-eyed girl stretched and rubbed her neck. A tall, insect-winged boy groaned, holding his back. One of the smaller students looked at the treehouse and whispered, "We helped build that, didn't we?" The others nodded slowly, surprised by their own memory. Yes. "And it didn't fall," someone added. Ryan pointed at a thick branch above the platform. "We build higher," he said, "safer from the ground." The students blinked. Higher. One asked, "Is that safe?" Ryan just gave a short smile. "Better than being food," he said. That made everyone move faster. They collected sticks, vines, and leaves. Ryan showed them how to find dry wood, how to test branch strength with a twist. He even showed them how to walk through the forest without making noise. "Step on the root, not the dirt," he said. "Avoid snapping twigs. And always look up, not just down." The students followed his lessons closely. They stopped calling him just Ryan. Now many quietly referred to him as leader or the builder, not out of command, but from quiet respect. With teamwork, the walls grew taller. The second platform began to form above the first. Ryan tied the support beams at angles, using 2 tree trunks as anchors. Then he showed them how to weave leaves into tight bundles. For padding, even the smallest student, a quiet, blue-furred girl, helped carry bark sheets. Her hands trembled, but she smiled each time Ryan nodded at her. By midday, sweat covered everyone, but no one stopped. The fear from day one had changed into focus. They weren't just surviving now, they were building, and that changed everything. During a short break, one of the winged boys asked Ryan, "Why do you know so much about this?" Ryan drank from a pouch and answered softly, "My great-grandfather lived in forests. Before we had ships, he hunted with a spear, built houses with wood, and cooked with fire." The students leaned in, listening like children at story time. "He said nature doesn't care who you are," Ryan added. "You learn to live with it, Tor. You don't live long." They didn't fully understand, but they felt it was true. This wasn't about strength, not anymore. This was about skill, patience, and trust. Later, the green-eyed girl climbed up the second level and gasped. She could see far beyond the trees over hills, into the distant river below. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Ryan climbed up beside her, Also safe, he said, pointing to the height. From predators, floods, and cold. Then he added, also good place to look out, as if on cue. A loud howl came from the west. Everyone froze. A shadow moved. Between trees, low and fast, something big, hunting. Ryan narrowed his eyes. Not close yet, he said, but soon. The students looked at the treehouse again. No longer just a home. Now it was a stronghold. Their only real chance if something attacked. Ryan gave new orders. We make a ladder, we make weapons, and we finish the roof. The aliens nodded. No one questioned him anymore. Each student picked a task. No one sat idle. Even those who were scared before now moved with purpose. By late afternoon, the second platform was finished. A leaf-covered roof now sat above it. Watertight and sturdy. The walls were strong, tied tight with twisted vines. A ladder made of thick rope and branch rungs hung from the base, and 3 long, sharp sticks stood ready as spears. Ryan stood at the top and looked down at the forest. The wind blew through his hair, behind him. 10 alien students sat quietly. Watching him work, below others gathered food, sharpened sticks, and reinforced the tree's base. They didn't look like students anymore. They looked like survivors. The green-eyed girl whispered to another. He turned us from frightened children into a tribe. The other nodded, and he did it without shouting, without power. Just by showing us how. The sun began to set again. The sky turned pink and gold, and the treehouse stood tall and proud in the middle of the wild. Built by alien hands, led by a human boy. Not a soldier, not a king. Just a boy who knew the old ways, and now everyone followed him not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The second night was colder than the first. The forest wind whistled through the tall trees, and strange animal sounds echoed in the distance. Most alien students sat close together under the treehouse, rubbing their arms and blowing warm air into their hands. Their shelter was stronger now, but something was still missing. Warmth, real warmth. Ryan knelt near the base of the tree, clearing a patch of dirt. He drew a small circle with a stick and placed stones around it. Then he began searching through the brush for dry leaves, bark, and twigs. The others watched, confused. "What is he doing now?" asked the silver-eyed girl. "Another trap?" asked one of the winged boys. "No," said the green-eyed girl, who now understood him best. "He's going to make fire." The others gasped. "Real fire? Without a tool? That's not possible." Ryan didn't respond. He just kept working. He placed the dry leaves in a small pile in the middle of the stones. Then, from his belt pouch, he pulled out 2 flat rocks. One smooth, one sharp. He struck them together, crack, crack. But nothing happened. He adjusted his angle and tried again. The students leaned in, silent, watching closely. Then, on the 5th strike, a spark, a tiny glow in the dry leaves. Ryan leaned down and gently blew air on it. The ember grew. Smoke lifted, then flames, small at first, then stronger. The students gasped. Some even clapped. They had seen holograms of fire, but never real flame this close. It felt alive and powerful. Ryan added twigs, then thicker sticks, soon. The fire crackled and glowed orange in the night. The warmth spread like magic. Cold fingers thawed, shaking hands stilled. Eyes reflected the firelight as the students moved closer. No one spoke for a while. They just felt the heat. And something else, a sense of safety. Then Ryan stood and pointed at a nearby plant. "Food," he said. The silver-eyed girl frowned. "That's just a weed." Ryan shook his head. "Underground, roots good to eat." He used his knife to dig up thick tubers and carried them back. He wrapped them in leaves and placed them beside the fire, not directly in it. Then he picked a wide leaf, folded it into a scoop, and collected water from a nearby stream. He dropped a pinch of gray powder from his pouch into it, purifying it. "How do you know all this?" the insect-winged boy asked softly. Ryan replied without looking up. "My people learned long ago how to live with nature, not fight it, and the ones who didn't, they died," he said simply. The tubers began to soften. Steam rose from the leaves. Ryan picked one up, unwrapped it, and tore it in half. He offered the first half to the green-eyed girl. She took it with two hands, bowing her head slightly. Then she bit into it. Her eyes widened. "It's warm," she said, surprised. "Not sweet, but good." Ryan smiled, then handed more to the others, one by one. The students tasted their first cooked meal in the wild. It was simple, no salt, no spice, just warm root and clean water. But for students who had nearly starved the night before, it felt like a feast. They sat around the fire, chewing slowly, warming their feet and hands. Laughter returned, soft and small, like shy birds. They shared stories now, not just fears. Some talked about their home planets, their families, their dreams. Others asked Ryan about Earth. "What is it like?" Someone asked, "Your world." Ryan stared into the fire for a moment. "It's wild," he said. "Forests, rivers, storms, ice, deserts. Some places are kind. Some are deadly. Earth teaches us one thing: adapt or die." They all went quiet, thinking this survival test was meant to break them, to test how they would react under pressure without tools or teachers. And it nearly hadn't till Ryan changed everything. With wood, rope, fire, and food, later that night, some students dozed off with their backs to the fire. The treehouse above held the rest, sleeping peacefully for the first time. Ryan stayed awake again, keeping watch with a sharpened stick beside him. He stared into the flames, as if seeing memories. He didn't need to be the leader. He just didn't want to lose anyone. The green-eyed girl woke briefly and saw him. "You don't sleep much," she whispered. Ryan didn't turn. "I sleep when they're safe," he said. She looked around at the others curled up in comfort, the glow of the fire, the finished roof above, and nodded. "You're not just surviving," she said. "You're teaching us to be human." Ryan finally looked at her and gave a small smile. "No," he said. "I'm reminding you that you already are." And the fire kept burning, a symbol of life, of warmth, and of one human boy who turned a nightmare into a lesson of light. The forest looked calm in the morning light. Birds sang soft songs above the treetops, and the wind carried the scent of fresh bark. The alien students smiled, stretching their sore arms and legs. They had survived 2 nights. They had shelter, fire, and food. It felt like victory, but Ryan wasn't smiling. He stood on the second level of the treehouse, eyes scanning the trees. His face was tight, his jaw firm. Something was wrong. He crouched and ran a finger across the bark near the ladder, then sniffed it, a faint smell like sour blood and wet fur. He frowned and stood up again. "Everyone down," he said. "We have work to do." The students climbed down, still sleepy. "What's going on?" asked the insect-winged boy, yawning. "Is it food time?" asked the purple-skinned girl, holding her belly. Ryan shook his head. "No food yet," he said. "There was something here last night close." Silence fell over the group. Some looked at the trees, others at the ground. They hadn't heard anything strange, but now their smiles were gone. Fear returned like a shadow behind them. Ryan pointed to the forest edge. "Prints," he said. Leading them there, they followed and saw them clearly: deep claw marks in the dirt, 4 toes, wide paws, and a long, dragging tail print. Too big for any small creature, too quiet to be harmless. The green-eyed girl whispered, "Was it watching us?" Ryan nodded slowly. "It was studying us," he said, waiting for weakness that shook them. They looked at each other, suddenly remembering their first day. The crying, the fear, the helpless panic. What if the beast had come then? They would have been gone without a trace. "We fight it?" asked the silver-eyed girl, raising a long stick. Ryan shook his head. "No," he said. "We protect, we prepare, and we defend. Not fight, not chase." And so, the training changed that day. No more quiet building. No more relaxed eating. Now they worked with speed and alert eyes. They added strong branches to block the base of the tree. They sharpened more stick-short ones for throwing, long ones for stabbing. Ryan taught them how to hold a weapon, how to listen to the wind, how to see with more than eyes. "You feel the forest," he said. "When birds stop singing, that means danger is near. When wind stops moving, something big is coming." They listened closely. The girl practiced throwing sticks. The insect-winged boy climbed high to spot movement from above. The green-eyed girl made bark whistles to signal if someone saw something wrong. Each student had a job, and none of them wasted time. That night, the fire burned higher than before. No one sat far from it. Ryan didn't sleep, he stood with course. Ryan didn't sleep, he stood with a spear in hand, watching the dark. The forest had gone quiet again. Too quiet, then crack. A branch snapped just beyond the trees. Everyone jumped. Ryan raised his hand, and all movement stopped. Another snap, this one closer, then heavy breathing, and a low, deep growl. Eyes, red and glowing, appeared between the trees. The same ones they had seen before, only now they were closer, just 20 feet from the firelight. The shape stepped forward, large, black fur, 6 legs, long claws, and a tail that twitched like a whip, its mouth open slightly, showing rows of jagged teeth. The beast had come. Some students panicked and backed up. Others raised weapons, shaking, but Ryan stood firm. Spear pointed at the ground, not at the beast. The creature stepped into full view, massive, muscled, and silent. It looked at Ryan and stopped moving. Ryan's voice was low but strong. "Do not run," he said. "Do not scream." The beast took a step closer, growling again. Ryan slowly raised the spear, not to throw, but to hold in front of him. He took one step forward. Between the creature and the students, he was now the wall, the shield. The students watched, frozen. Then the beast lunged fast, too fast, but Ryan was faster. He stepped to the side and slammed the spear into the creature's shoulder. It roared and spun, trying to bite, but Ryan ducked, rolled, and stood again. Blood dripped from the beast's side. It wasn't dead, but it was hurt. The firelight caught its eyes again. This time they were unsure. It looked at Ryan, then at the other students, saw holding weapons now, standing as one, and then it turned and ran back into the trees, vanishing like a shadow, gone, but not forgotten. For a long time, no one moved. Then cheers broke out. "You did it. You scared it off. That was amazing." But Ryan didn't cheer. He sat down slowly, breathing hard. "That was not a win," he said. "That was a warning." They understood. The beast had tested the man left because they stood together, not just because of Ryan, but because of all of them. The green-eyed girl sat beside him and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You saved us," she said softly. Ryan looked into the fire. "No," he said. "You all saved yourselves. I just reminded you how." And in the dark forest, with claws and teeth hiding in the shadows, that reminder became their greatest strength. Asterisk. A pale silver sun rose above the trees, casting long stripes of light across the camp. Cool mist rolled over the ground, swirling around the posts of the tall treehouse like silent ghosts. Inside, alien students stretched and yawned, their muscles aching but their minds clear. They had made it through another night, and rumor said this would be the final morning of the test. Some smiled. Others whispered quick prayers to distant stars. Yet every face carried the same new strength. Ryan climbed down first, landing softly on the dirt. He checked the fire pit, added to small logs, and blew until red coals flared bright again. A warm glow spread outward, chasing away the mist. One by one, the students joined him, forming a loose half-circle. Waiting for his words, Ryan pointed at the sky, where a single drone hovered far above, its lights blinking slowly like a mechanical heartbeat. "Testing eyes are still on us," he said, calm and clear. "They will come soon, so we clean the camp, we check the defenses, and we stand ready." They moved at once. No shouting needed, no confusion. The silver-eyed girl gathered sharp sticks and stacked them neatly under a canvas of bark. The insect-winged boy fluttered high into the branches, scanning the forest edge for fresh tracks. The green-eyed girl checked the rope ladder, tightening every knot with steady fingers. Younger students swept ash and debris away from the tree base so the ground looked ordered, almost military. Soon, the wild clearing resembled a home village. Tidy and proud, as they worked, small birds came back to the branches. Chirping softly like distant bells, Ryan listened and nodded. For the forest only sang when danger slept, yet his eyes never stopped moving, searching tree-lined shadows for motion to slow or to silent. He remembered the six-legged beast, the crimson eyes, the wet smell of blood near the ladder. Predators. Learn quickly, he thought. They test once, then wait for weak moments. Ryan refused to offer any weakness today. Not on the last day. Around mid-morning, the mist thinned, revealing a silver shuttle breaking through clouds. Its hull gleamed like polished bone. Engines whispering instead of roaring, students froze, staring upward with wide eyes. Some felt relief, others worry, because evaluation could mean praise or punishment. The shuttle circled twice, then glided downward, settling in a small clearing just beyond the river's bend. Steam hissed. Vents opened, and a ramp unfolded with soldiers' move. Precision. 3 instructors stepped out, wearing bright academy jackets and neat white gloves. Behind them rolled a floating recorder orb, its lens blinking red, capturing every detail. The lead instructor, tall and stern with copper skin, carried a datapad. Strapped to her wrist, she looked at the camp, at the organized supplies, at the towering treehouse. And her eyes widened. "This should be impossible," she muttered. Loud enough for the orb to catch the words, Ryan stepped forward, slowly. And respectfully, spear rested but visible by his side. "Welcome to our shelter," he said, voice steady like riverstone. Students formed 2 lines behind him, heads held high, back straight. No one trembled now, not even the smallest blue-furred girl who once hid behind roots. The instructor approached the tree base, running a white-gloved hand across the fitted wall of woven branches. "Structural integrity," she whispered. Surprised, she tapped her pad. Then spoke louder. "How long did this construction take?" 6 hours for the first platform," Ryan answered. 2 days for full reinforcement." The other instructors walked around, measuring angles, recording joint strength. Smelling the fire for smoke purity, they found the water purifier carved from stone and vine, the whistle alarm hanging on a branch, the food cache hidden beneath fresh leaves. Every discovery widened their eyes further. Every note on the datapad grew longer. One instructor spotted claw marks on a front beam, deep. An ugly predator encounter. She asked sharply. "Yes," Ryan replied. "We repelled it together." A murmur of admiration passed between officials. Suddenly, a shrill whistle cut through the group. The insect-winged boy had spotted motion near the south ridge. Students spun, gripping prepared weapons. Instructors startled, raising wrist shields. The recorder orb zipped higher for a clear view. Bushes shook violently, and the 6-legged beast burst forth, bleeding where Ryan had speared it 2 nights before. It charged, drawn by fire scent and moving bodies. Jaws open like twin bear traps. Before panic could bloom, Ryan shouted a single word: hold. Students spread into practiced positions, 3 with spears forming a triangle point. Others behind with throwing sticks. The beast lunged at Ryan again. Furious and limping, he stepped sideways, slammed his spear butt into the ground, and redirected the lunge so the creature slid toward the triangle. 3 sharp tips struck at one shoulder rib, flank driving the beast back with a howl of pain. The beast staggered, blood spilling onto cool dirt, but it still lived, rage bright in its red eyes. The silver-eyed girl hurled her weighted throwing stick, hitting the jaw with a hard crack. The creature snapped at empty air. Momentarily stunned, in that heartbeat, the green-eyed girl sprinted forward, planting a bark whistle against its face. She blew hard, a piercing note that echoed through the clearing. The beast recoiled, sensitive ears ringing. It turned, tail whipping dust, and fled into the forest where morning shadows swallowed it whole. Silence returned, broken only by distant birds shifting nervously. Instructors lowered shields, faces pale, one whispered. They coordinated like a trained unit. Another added, under a cadet with no command rank. The lead instructor took a deep breath, then faced Ryan. Explain how you achieved this discipline, she demanded. Ryan wiped blood from the spear tip, then looked at every student behind him. We learned the old way, he said softly. Protect the weak. Listen to the world. Trust your tribe. The copper-skinned instructor studied his face, then slowly bowed her head, an ancient sign of respect rarely given to learners. She tapped the datapad and spoke so all devices recorded. Galactic Academy Survival Test, Team 32, result, outstanding. Cheers erupted, students hugging, some crying joyful tears. The recorder orb circled, lenses flashing, capturing raw pride and relief. Ryan allowed himself a small smile, but his eyes still scanned the trees. Ever watchful, the beast might return, storms might come, other trials might wait. Yet the tribe he had forged in wood and fire now knew how to stand together. And that, more than any grade, was the lesson he came to teach. The silver shuttle rose from the forest clearing, its engines humming like distant bees inside the cabin. 20 alien students sat in 2 neat rows, their uniforms torn but their eyes bright. Every face carried small cuts, smoky smudges, and proud smiles. Ryan sat at the end of the front row, his hands folded over the old wooden spear he refused to leave behind. The instructors stood near the cockpit, whispering over datapads, glancing at the students again and again they had seen. Many survival classes, but never a group that walked out stronger than the day they dropped in. The shuttle began its gentle descent toward the Galactic Academy campus, a floating station of glass and silver hanging above soft blue clouds. Lights flashed across wide landing platforms, greeting returning classes like homing stars. A welcoming crowd of first-year cadets had gathered behind safety rails, eager to see which team survived the brutal test. Rumors ran through the academy already, telling of one team that built a fortress, fought a beast, and never lost a single member. Some believed the story. Others laughed, calling it impossible, but everyone waited for proof. With a soft thump, the shuttle touched down. Hatches hissed open, and warm air rushed inside the lead. Instructor turned, her copper skin glowing under landing lights, and spoke loud enough for all to hear. Team 32, form up, she said. Less than a heartbeat later, the students stood in perfect formation, back straight, heads high. Not one had to be told twice. A skill that made the younger cadets watching whisper in awe. Ryan stepped forward, saluted, then waited. The instructor raised her hand in return, then motioned toward a long walkway leading to the central hall. This way, she ordered, time. To record the final result, the students marched, moving like one living line. Boots tapping rhythm on the metal floor, crowds on both sides leaned over rails. Gasping when they saw the scars, the handmade whistles, the bark armor strapped 2 shoulders. A blue-haired boy pointed at Ryan's spear and shouted, "Look!" He kept the weapon, while his friends stared wide. Inside the grand hall, holly screens projected scores for other teams. Many colored red for failure, yellow for partial pass, only a few green. When Team 32 reached the center, every screen flickered, then displayed their camp diagram, their water purifier. The beast encounter footage captured by the recorder orb. Data scroll below. Shelter integrity, 92%. Food security, 87%. Team morale, 95%. Casualties, 0. A growing hush filled the hall as cadets realized what the numbers meant. Then, in a single bright flash, all screens turned emerald green and showed one glowing word: outstanding. Cheers burst like fireworks, shaking the crystal chandeliers. First-year cadets clapped so hard their hands stung. Instructors from other departments exchanged stunned looks. The copper-skinned examiner raised both arms, silencing the room with a sharp whistle. She turned to Ryan and the students, her voice echoing by authority of the Galactic Academy. "I declare Team 32 not only passed, but set a new survival record." She said, "But we have one final tradition," she added, glancing at the students. "Recognition by your peers." The students looked at each other, unsure. Then back to Ryan. The green-eyed girl stepped forward first, her voice steady. "It was Ryan who guided us," she said. Loud enough for balconies above, he showed us how to build, how to eat, how to stand as one. She removed the vine bracelet from her wrist, the same rope Ryan had first given her to tie roof beams. Placed it in his hand, a silent gift. Of respect, one by one, each student followed, laying small tokens at Ryan's feet. A carved whistle, a sharpened stick. A strip of bark turned into a badge, even a broken claw from the beast. Ryan tried to speak, but emotion closed his throat like tight vines. Then the silver-eyed girl dropped to one knee. Bowing her head low, palms flat on the floor, she spoke. A single word from her language that meant guardian. The insect-winged boy bowed next, wings folded tight, eyes shining with tears. In seconds, the entire team knelt, creating a circle of honor around Ryan. A hush swept the hall again, deeper than before. Even the instructors seemed unsure what to do. Because kneeling before a fellow student was rare, Ryan swallowed hard, feeling heat behind his eyes. He stepped back, shaking his head, whispering, "Stand up, please." But the green-eyed girl answered, "We rise only when you accept." Ryan looked at the copper-skinned examiner, who gave a single nod, granting silent permission with trembling hands. Ryan lifted the vine bracelet high so everyone could see. "I accept," he said simply, his voice rough but clear. The kneeling students rose together, pride replacing tears. Thunderous applause exploded from the balconies, rolling like storm waves. Ryan stood in the center, tokens clutched to his chest, wondering how a simple survival test had turned strangers into family. He thought of the beast's red eyes, the cold nights, the quiet moments when fear nearly won. And he realized something powerful. Leadership was not about orders shouted in loud voices. It was about calm hands showing how to tie a knot. Soft words guiding a trembling friend, and steady courage standing between danger and hope. Later, after formal reports and medical scans, the Academy hosted a small banquet for the victorious team. Long tables overflowed with bright fruit, steaming soups, and sweet breads, scents filling the air with warmth. Yet the students noticed Ryan fill his plate last, choosing simple roots and water, a silent reminder of the forest diet. They copied him, skipping fancy desserts for plain food, honoring the lesson of humility he had lived when speeches began. High officials praised statistics. innovation, and record times. But the students whispered among themselves about shared fires, laughter, under leaf roofs, and a human boy who stayed awake while they slept. At evening's end, the copper-skinned examiner called Ryan aside, handing him a slim data crystal, full scholarship to the Earthship engineering track. She said, smiling, "At this academy, we build ships of metal, but your mind still builds from wood and heart." Ryan stared at the crystal, then at his teammates waving from across the room. He thought of forests back on Earth, of ancestors hunting under starlight. He closed his fist around the offer and nodded. "I'll accept if my team can visit the workshop," he said, bold and honest. The examiner laughed, clapped his shoulder, and agreed at once, because true leaders never walk alone. The night sky outside the hall glittered with thousands of worlds yet unseen. Each star a promise, each promise a challenge. And somewhere amid that infinite dark, the six-legged beast prowled its forest still, nursing scars, teaching its cubs new caution, for it had met a tribe that feared no shadow, warmed by a fire of unity and guided by a humble human whose greatest strength was sharing knowledge. So the tale of Team 32 spread across the academy. First-year cadets repeated it in whispers, dreaming of wooden forts and glowing flames. Instructors cited it in lectures about adaptive leadership, survival psychology, and cross-species trust. And whenever Ryan walked a corridor, alien children bowed lightly, touching hearts with open palms, their silent way of saying thank you. Ryan always answered with a nod and a small smile, while his eyes searched distant windows, because he knew the galaxy was a vast, wild forest, and many more students would one day panic in its shadows. He was ready to teach again, to build again, to light fires where hope seemed lost. For that was the lesson the forest had carved into his bones. Protect the weak, listen to the world. Trust your tribe, and the tribe will rise taller than any treehouse ever could.